Hello, everybody. This is Paul, and we're doing our morning Bible reading. So please join me as we read 1 Chronicles chapter 6, rolling through here the lineage of Israel. I'm going to be reading about the priestly line today, which is so important, as we know. We're going to open up in prayer, and then we're going to read 1 Chronicles 6. I'll give you a chance to turn there. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kivo, Mahuto, Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates. Hallelujah. All right, everybody. So we are reading the priestly line, 1 Chronicles chapter 6. And as we look at this, we see the tribe of Levi was set apart to serve Yahweh in the tabernacle, as found in Numbers 3 and 4. And later in the temple, 1 Chronicles 23 and 26 talk about this. Aaron, Levi's descendant, became Israel's first high priest. Yahweh required all future priests to be descendants of Aaron. The rest of the Levites assisted the priest in various tabernacle temple duties. They taught the people Yahweh's word and encouraged them to obey it. Now, prayerfully and hopefully you've just learned something, because we hear about the priest and then we hear about Aaron. And so now that's an important distinction to know the difference between the priest and the high priest. And the different, again, Yahweh is a set of roles, and he has roles for all people, and that's for the roles that Yahweh had. So as we read here, it says, the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The descendants from Kohath included Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. The children of Amram were Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. The sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Very interesting, as it says in verse 3, the children of Amram were, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Then we get into the sons of Aaron, which were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. The note here says the people listed here played major roles in the drama of the Exodus. Aaron's story is found in the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. His information in Exodus is all throughout Scripture. Moses was one of the greatest prophets and leaders in Israel's history. His story is found in the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And the story of Miriam, Moses and Aaron's sister, is found in Exodus 2, 15 to 20, and also Numbers 12, 20, verse 1. Nadab and Abihu were killed for disobeying Yahweh in Leviticus 10. Eleazar became Israel's high priest after Aaron, as found in Numbers 20, 24 to 28. And Ithamar played an important role in organizing the worship service of the tabernacle, found in Numbers 4, 28 and 33, 7 and 8. So now let's go back to verse 3. This is an extremely important verse, everybody. Verse 3 here. Because now we're seeing of all these names that are being mentioned in the lineage of Israel. Now we're seeing here the names we're more familiar with. The children of Aaron were Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. The sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Now we continue. Eleazar was the father of Phinehas. Phinehas was the father of Ashabu. Ashabu was the father of Sikah, and Sikah was the father of Uzzi. Uzzi was the father of Serach, and Serach was the father of Meraioth. Meraioth was the father of Amariah, and Amariah was the father of Ahitub. Ahitub was the father of Zadok, and Zadok was the father of Ahimaaz. Ahimaaz was the father of Azariah, and Azariah the father of Jonathan. Jonathan was the father of Azariah, the high priest of the temple built in Solomon in Jerusalem. In Solomon in Jerusalem. Now we're up to verse 10, if you're just joining us, and we're seeing the significance, because in verse 3 we saw the importance of this. We started to recognize the names of the priestly line, but then we got into a whole bunch of names. You might have recognized Phinehas from the scriptures, but the rest, many of us haven't heard of. But then we get down to verse 10. Johanan was the father of Azariah, high priest of the temple built in Solomon in Jerusalem. And it says here, when we get into this, some Christian English translations have different names in these verses, with Johanan in place of Elican. These names are from Latin, not the Hebrew. Interesting note for verse 10 from the One New Man Bible. So in the One New Man Bible, in verse 10, it says, and the sons of Elikah are Amasai and Amariah. So it says the son of Elikah. So the names, this is why it's important to have a good name. Now, that name isn't much significant to us, but it is one of the names in the priestly line. And it's great to show how some of these Bibles do explain why some of the names might be different as we study these. All right, verse 11, Zerahiah was the father of Amariah, and Amariah the father of Ahitub. Now remember, we're reading the priestly line here. So this is the priestly line. Remember who our high priest is. 12, Ahitub was the father of Zadok. Zadok was the father of Shalom. Shalom was the father of Hilkiah, and Hilkiah was the father of Azariah. Azariah was the father of Zechariah. Zechariah was the father of Zadok, who went into exile when Yahweh sent the people of Judah and Jerusalem into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. And now we see the clans of the Levites. Verse 16 says the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. So now we're leaving the high priest line, and now we're getting to the Levite clans. So the descendants of Gershon included Levi and Shammai. The descendants of Kohath included Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Verse 19, the descendants of Merari included Merari and Mushi. The following were Levites' clans listed according to the ancestral descent. Verse 20, the descendants from Gershon included Libni, Jathana, Zemi, Joah, Udu, Zara, and Genetari. The descendants of Kohath included Amardabad, Korah, Aset, Elikah, Abishua, Asar, Tinath, Uriel, Uzziel, and Shaul. Verse 25. The descendants of Elkan included Asmari, Amariah, Elkan, Zopa, and Nathan. In verse 27, Elib, Jerum, Ethan, and Samuel. And then number 28, the sons of Samuel were Joel, the older, and Abijah, the second. And now we go to this note here in verse 28 that says, when Samuel became Yahweh's leader, and spokesman, Israel was on the brink of collapse. The last few chapters of the book of Judges gives a vivid picture of the moral decay and the resultant decline of the nation. But with Yahweh's help, Samuel almost single-handedly brought the nation from ruin to revival. He unified the people by showing them that Yahweh was their common leader, and that any nation that focused on him would fulfill its true purpose. For the rest of Samuel's story, and to see how rules of governance and nations based on the spiritual principles, read the book of 1 Samuel read the book of 1 Samuel. So now we see Samuel we'll go through the descendants of Levite. I don't know how many of you knew Samuel was a descendant of Levite, but now you know, verse 28. Then we go to verse 29. The descendants of Merari included Malachi, Labra, Shemiel, Uzziah, Shemiah, Haggash, and Ashiah. So remember that. Remember we got Samuel, the whole story with Saul and that whole story. So now we know where Samuel is on this. Now we get to the temple of musicians, chapter 31, or verse 31 of chapter 6. David assigned the following men to lead the music in the house of Yahweh after the ark was placed there. So the note for 31 says, the builders and craftsmen had completed the temple, and the priests and Levites had been given their responsibilities for taking care of it. Then it was time for another group of people, the musicians, to exercise their talents for Yahweh. Some of those who served with music and recorded and are recorded here. You don't have to be an ordained minister to have an important place in the body of believers. Builders, craftsmen, workmen, assistants, choir members, and song leaders all have significant contributions to make. Yahweh has given you a unique combination of talents. Use them to serve and honor him. So as we get into these assigned people by David, verse 32, it says, they ministered with music and at the tabernacle until Solomon built the temple of Yahweh in Jerusalem. And they carried out their work, following all the regulations handed down to them. These are the men who served with their sons. And Harman, the musician, was from the clan of Kohath. His genealogy was traced back through Joel and Samuel, Elon, Jerith, and Elel and Tori. Now for 34, let's see. Okay, 34. No, that's 39. Okay, verse 35. Zuppah, Ikath, Manath, and Amasi. Ekeneth, Joel, Azariah, and Zephaniah. And 37 says Tanith, Aspi, and Korah. And verse 38. Ishar, Kohath, Levi, and Israel. And the note now 39 says Haman's first assistant was Aspath from the clan of Gershon. After his genealogy was traced back to through Becherah, Shema. And the note here says in the One New Man Bible, the lot for the priest was identified as in First Joshua. The lot for the Levi. Yeah. The lot for the priest were identified first in 2110. 2110. So the lots for the priest were first identified in Joshua 21:10. In Joshua 21:10. So we look here and continuing. Verse 40. We're up to verse 40. Ethan, Zamuel, Shami, Janeth, Gasher, and Levi. Haman's second assistant was Ethan from the clan of Merari. Ethan's genealogy was traced back through Koresh, Abdi, and Makkah. Verse 45, Habith, Amasi, and Hilkiah, Azi, Beni, and Shemir, Mili, Mushi, Merari, and Levi. Their fellow Levites were appointed to various tasks over the tabernacle, the house of Yahweh. Now we get into Aaron's descendants. So it's great record keeping and such an important thing. It says only Aaron and his descendants served as priests. They presented the offerings on the altar and the burnt offerings on the altar of incense. They performed all the other duties related to the most holy place. They made atonement for Israel by doing everything that Moses, the servant of Yahweh, had commanded them. And then it says here in the note, for more information on the priest, you can go and look at in Leviticus. It's all throughout that book and talks about them. Verse 50, the descendants of Aaron were Eleazar, Phinehas, and Abishua, Bukki, Uzzi, Zaneth, Meraioth, Amariah, Ahitub, Zadok, and Ahimaaz. And now we look at the territory for the Levites. This is a record of the towns and the territories assigned by means of sacred lots to the descendants of Aaron who were from the clan of Kohath. And the note here says the tribe of Levi was not given a specific area of land, as were the other tribes of Israel. The Levites were to live throughout the land in order to aid in the people of every tribe in the worship of Yahweh. Thus, the Levites were given towns and pastures within the allotted areas of the other tribes. That was the note for verse 54. And now 55. The territory included Hebron and its surrounding pasture lands in Judah. But the fields and outlying areas belonging to the city were given to Caleb, son of Juniputh. So the descendants of Aaron were given the following towns, each with his pastured lands: Hebron, a city of refuge; Lemeth, Jetah, and Ishtamiah. So before we continue that, there's a note for Caleb here in the there's a note here in 57, and it says, Yahweh had told the tribes to designate specific cities to be cities of refuge in Numbers 35. These cities were to provide refuge for a person who accidentally kills someone. This instruction may have seemed unimportant when it was given. The Israelites haven't even entered the promised land. Sometimes Yahweh gives us instructions that do not seem relevant to us at the moment, but later we can see the importance of these instructions. Don't discard the lessons of the Bible because certain details seem irrelevant. Obey Yahweh now, and in the future you will have a clearer understanding of the reasons for these instructions. And this is the same thing I say about the giving of the names and the reason of all these names and this history, historical record. It might seem insignificant now, but later on we might realize, well, that was pretty good that I knew those names and I knew what they meant. So where did I hear that name before? So we continue in 58. Holon, Debar, Ain, Judith, and Beth Shemesh. And from the territory of Benjamin they were given Gibeon, Gabed, Elith, and Anath, each with his pastured land. So 13 towns were given to the descendants of Aaron. And verse 61 says the remaining descendants of Kohath received the towns from the territory of half the tribe of Manasseh by means of sacred lots. And the note here says the Israelites cast lots in order to take the decision-making process out of human hands, but it put it into Yahweh's hands. Casting lots was like drawing straws or throwing dice. Lots were cast only after seeking Yahweh's guidance in prayer. And I have teachings on that in our Bible readings and previously, so you could go back and see those. So 62, the descendants of Gershon received the sacred lots. 13 towns received by sacred lots. 13 towns from the territories of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and from the Bashan area of Manasseh east of the Jordan. The descendants of Merari received the sacred towns, lots, 12 towns from the territories of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. So the people of Israel assigned these towns and pastured lands to the Levites. The towns and the territories of Judah, Simon, and Benjamin mentioned above were assigned to them by means of sacred lots. The descendants of Kohath were given the following towns from the territory of Ephraim, with each with his pastured lands: Shechem, a city of refuge in the hill country of Ephraim; Gezer, Jonarim, Beth Haran, Alilon, and Gathream. The remaining descendants of Kohath were assigned the towns of Anar and Belorn from the territory of half the Manasseh, each with its pastured lands. The descendants of Gershon received the towns of Golan and Asheroth from the territory of the half tribe of Manasseh, each with its pastured lands. From the territory of Issachar they were given Kadesh, Zabarath, Ramoth, and Anim, each with his pastured lands. From the territory of Asher they received Mashiel and Abdon, Huruk and Rabnah, each with its pastured lands. From the territory of Naphtali they were given Kadesh in Galilee, Hammon, and Kerameth, each with his pastured lands. The remaining descendants of Merari received the towns of Jonakim, Karith, Ramam, and Tabor from the territory of Zebulun, each with his pastured lands. From the territory of Rabert, east of the Jordan River, opposite Jericho, they received Bezar, a desert town, Jahaz, Chemath, and Melepth, each with his pastured lands. And from the territory of Gad, they received Ramoth and Gilead, Malim, Heshbon, and Jazer, each with his pastured lands. That was chapter 6 of First Chronicles. And in chapter 7, we're going to read about the descendants of Issachar. And then we're going to go, and all the way to chapter 9, we're reading about the lineage and the descendants. And then we're going to get in chapter 10 about the reign of King David. So that is our morning Bible reading for today. And I pray that you all have a blessed day out there today. And Yahweh be with you. And thank you for watching this. Thank you for subscribing. Shalom, shalom.